I would say every single class that I teach has some community-based element to it. What it brings to the classroom that I could never simulate is a real audience. And when the audience becomes somebody other than me, there's more opportunity for different viewpoints to be expressed. Early in their group projects, I'll ask them, how many of you have been in a group where you've felt like you've done all the work, a collaborative project? And usually 80-90% of the hands go up. And then my next question is, how many of you have ever been in a group where you wanted to contribute more and you didn't have the chance? And surprisingly, a good number of hands go up. And I ask the students to tell me what they make of that. And I encourage them to see that sometimes the person who does all the work, the person that dominates the conversation, is just as responsible as the person who maybe isn't able to contribute. You bring in the community members and they get that, like because they know what's really out there in the world and that it's a much more complicated audience than the instructor. And then and so then the community members come in, and then all of a sudden this person who's usually dominating this project and isn't allowing in other viewpoints has to open up a little bit. Sometimes they're just not even aware that they're not allowing other conversations to enter into the project, or that maybe some of the more silenced discourses that aren't getting articulated are the very thing that's going to inform the project the most. And so in technical writing, I'm very lucky because what ends up happening a lot of times is if we do have students that tend to dominate a project and hold the project too tightly, that ultimately the project gets taken into the public. And that's where the community-based element comes in and is so important, because then there's a larger audience and the audience has a chance to respond to the document. And it's an opportunity sometimes for people to realize how much we do work with blinders a lot of times, and we don't consider all of the available means of persuasion in a given situation, and we don't consider all of the different viewpoints. And sometimes the audience response to documents can be quite shocking to students. They are actually sitting down with the students and looking at the students' writing and actually giving them feedback on the writing and telling them what's either they're finding to be rhetorically effective or less effective, and also the way that it's speaking to them as an audience. And so we have everything from an attorney coming in to an environmental activist to a veteran activist. And so they're getting all of these different perspectives on their writing. And it's different than me giving them feedback, because when they're engaged in the issues that they're most passionate about, sometimes, as much as they will get diversity of opinions within their smaller groups, once that group reaches some consensus on what's going to actually get put into the material, I can walk over and kind of look over the shoulder and see that maybe there's something missing from that perspective, that maybe there is a voice or a voice that's absent from their understanding of the concept. But if I say that to them, I kind of get this look like, well, yeah, right. Well, there's four of us and there's one of you, and we've already done all of this negotiation, all of this work towards dialogue and then narrowing it down, because ultimately dialogue does in the classroom move to discussion, which is that you kind of put everything out there. You put all the possible perspectives out there, and then they ultimately have to come down to some kind of agreement on what stance they're going to take, what is going to be their thesis statement, or what's going to be their message. And once they achieve that, if I come in and maybe push for one of these perspectives that maybe they either didn't consider or they valued as being like not maybe as pertinent to their topic, you find that they kind of are like, well, we already did that work. And by being able to bring in the community or a story from the community and tell them, to get the other perspective in there, then they're more willing to consider it. They're more willing to integrate it.